All right, we are live. I'm still working out this studio here. I haven't put together the fancy intro and everything, so bear with us, everyone. Today, we are doing a Critique the Community on the best photos that the Fstoppers community has taken so far this year in 2022. And we got some good ones.
There's some debate if you could enter an image in that was taken like the last few days.
Sure.
Of course you could.
Yeah,
he was going out and...
That's how this year works.
Okay.
If you want to be part of the next critique, I'm trying, at the moment, I'm trying to build this thing back up, so I'm doing very broad things. I know we've done this before, but I've gone back to animals.
Animals.
I go for...
Does that include humans?
No.
No.
Doesn't include humans. Wildlife photography, I guess pets will allow. Usually what I do is I just go to the Fstoppers community, I sort by highest rated, and then an image that speaks to me, I'm like, that's the genre. Yeah. So head over to fstoppers.com/contest to be a part of that. I have a link in the description if you're on YouTube right now.
How many tutorials are we giving away? 2 again?
Let's do 2, yeah.
And then the highest rated?
The highest rated and
then
random? One. Let's do the highest rated and the final image.
The final image?
Let's do that.
If you don't
the first and the last image.
If you don't win, we have the coupon code YouTube, which gives you 15% off of a tutorial.
And we actually have a new tutorial that was supposed to come out today, but you pushed it till tomorrow?
I mean, I put a video out today at noon, and the other video didn't go live, so I don't know whose fault that was. But
can we tell people what the tutorial is?
Yeah, why don't you give them the...
So, we've been doing the Where Art Meets Architecture series with Mike Kelly, the architectural real estate photographer. And people love that series. I mean, it's the most successful series we've ever done, but of course we still get the complaints that like, this is way over my head, this is too complicated. I want to know like affordable gear to use and what camera settings and where to place my camera, stuff that's like really entry level. So we decided to do a video with Mike kind of on the basics of real estate photography or like Airbnb photography, that sort of thing.
Yep.
So if you feel like the previous Where Art Meets Architecture series is a little bit too complex, this one might be.
But if you have all of the Where Art Meets Architecture videos already, probably don't need the newest one.
I wouldn't think so.
It's a step backwards.
Absolutely.
It's kind of like WAMA 1, but even
no,
less.
There's
no Photoshop, right? He does everything in Lightroom. He goes into Photoshop a few times.
Exactly, yeah. So. All right, let's go ahead and get to this. This is our first image here, and this is the highest rated image. This image was taken by Miguel Martens, and of course, we all hope that this is real, but alas, he says it is a composite done in Photoshop and Lightroom. But it is the highest rated image. Are you ready to rate this?
Yeah, sure.
3, 2, 1.
You're going 4?
I mean, I really like it. I mean, obviously the sky's a little over the top, but I feel like it was done realistically enough that I had a dream, that I hoped it was real.
It's getting harder to know where the line is with sky replacements, especially an image like this where it's kind of all about the sky.
Yeah, exactly.
If you were staying in this location and you were in a hotel room and you saw this printed large on the wall, you'd be like, wow, that's crazy. Tell me about that storm.
Yeah.
But then if they're like, oh, I don't know that that's ever really happened, then kind of loses its value.
It does, but at the same time, he admitted this was a composite, and this was submitted to the biggest group of assholes ever, and they rated it the highest in the whole critique. So that says something, doesn't it?
I mean, it's got like value for stock photography, and it's cool for this location, especially if this is where you live. I feel like, do you like the foreground? I mean, it's very simplistic, which sometimes we like that a lot.
I think that's why I do like it, is it's, yes, the sky's over the top, but the way they've placed it with that really simple, I don't know if that's considered a foreground when it's that far away, but the actual land part, I think it's super cool.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, this doesn't speak to me in a way where I'm like, wow, that definitely needs to go in your portfolio, and knowing that it's fake is still, it shouldn't matter. A lot of times when I see fake skies, it's like the foreground is so strong and the landscape or the cityscape is so well composed that changing a sky to just make it a little more dramatic, it's like not...
It's not about the sky.
Right, but when it becomes only the sky, it's kind of like, it's making me think about it a little bit more. It's a fine image. I think it's great. I gave it a solid 3. I don't know if I can put it in the 4 category, but
Well, we can move on to a level 5 image. Let's go.
ah, yes, this looks familiar. The last image is winning the tutorial, right? Not the second one?
Not this one.
Okay.
No, I mean, this is clearly way better.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, it did not win.
So I wrote a huge write-up on this because I sent this image to you and you were like, please, for the love of God, do not ever release this. And I was like...
Is this what you sent me? Or did you send me another one where she was sitting or something?
Maybe she had her arm up or something
yes,
else. But it was like...
If you guys can even imagine, it was way worse than this one.
Really, I feel like I had like 6 images from this little session that I felt like were all very similar but kind of different and cool.
Where's my phone? Where's my phone?
But I wrote in the write-up kind of the inspiration for this, and I bought all these expensive photo books from some of the best photographers in the world, and you were saying like this looks nothing like them, but if I open some of those books, there's some like crazy images that by today's standards do not look that incredible, but they still, I don't know.
So, I don't know if you guys can easily see this. I don't have an easy way to put it on screen, but this is what Patrick sent me. This is the pose that he sent me, and it is so much worse. So much worse. I mean, don't get me wrong, the image you submitted is horrible too, but this is, oh my gosh, like, I don't even want to look at this. It's so bad.
I don't love this. I'm not saying this even goes in my portfolio, but I'm like, there's a part of me that with this new studio space, I want to start doing things unconventionally. And I think you suffer from this more than anybody, because when I see
How dare you, sir?
When I see you compete with Pi and Mike, I'm like, Mike might suffer from it a little bit too. Pi's the best out of it. Stepping outside your box and doing something crazy, doing portraits wide angle, or lighting in a really unusual way, or I don't know, just trying to be creative behind the lens. I feel like so many times I'm like, let's shoot at 70 millimeters, that's light from the standard spot, let's get a really attractive person, and let's get great clothing, and just make it simple, and it's suddenly gonna be, a solid image. But when I look at these photo books that I've bought, so many people are doing like really wildly crazy things, and sometimes
tell me about this image and what is wild. I mean, I guess there's a strange light box behind her head. Is that the wildness to this image that you speak of?
Like, I would normally not have somebody standing on these boxes. I would never, like, I specifically told her to put these boots on because she had these dress shoes on that made it feel dressier. And so I was like, let's make it a little grungier. Put the boots on because I would normally not style somebody with boots. I don't know, the hard light, like, one of the lights is like way off to the side casting that shadow. And I don't know that this is really stepping that far out of the box for me either, but it was just something.
What is going on here? Like, when I look at this, we've obviously got the hard shadow on the right,
Yep.
but then we've got a hard shadow directly underneath her chin. It almost feels like you've combined 2 images in Photoshop.
I don't know what I mean, I know the lighting setup. The lighting setup is a hard light to the far left,
Okay.
casting the hard shadow.
Yes.
And then a bounce flash into the ceiling, lifting up all of those shadows.
Okay.
And then I had one of those Westcott optical spots, but that was pretty low, shooting up, kind of, I thought.
It's below the lens? No.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like high up, but it's casting that light up above her.
Are you saying that shadow under her chin is being cast from the light on the left? Or
It must be. It must be.
Really? Why isn't there a shadow on her nose?
I mean, I think you can see there's a highlight on the bottom side of her nose.
Like, see it.
Her nose should be kind of dark. You can see the shadow being cast from the right-hand side. It's kind of filled in a lot by the fill light.
Yeah, why isn't the shadow on her chin being filled in by the fill light?
The only thing I can think is that optical snoot is just so much more powerful and focused that it's creating that super sharp shadow. And maybe it's
What shadow?
I don't, now that you mention it.
You don't even know what the hell
Do you
you're
have the other
talking
image,
about.
the other one? It's got similar lighting. I mean, it's the same session.
I do.
This got a little
I've
complicated
right
to
here.
where with 3 lights going off, it was starting to get to where you're like, I like to build things up so I know exactly what every light's doing.
Apparently you don't know what every light's doing, though. That's the problem. Yeah, I mean, this one kind of has a similar vibe. It's like under her chin, it's really dark.
But doesn't it feel like the light's from the right casting the shadow down? But that was a that was a bounce light.
I don't know how you did it. It's weird. The pose in the one that you texted me is particularly horrific. The pose and the one you submitted, I don't hate.
Yeah.
But it's just like, I don't know, standing in the apple boxes is kind of cheesy.
I mean, do you
to
remember,
me.
there was just this documentary that I've yet to watch about Abercrombie and Fitch that Peter Hurley is in? I mean, I had friends be like, is that Peter? And I'm like, I haven't seen this documentary.
Okay.
But it's a Bruce Weber image. And like, you remember all those, didn't Abercrombie have like a book that came out like the late 90s? It was almost like a catalog. It was kind of like male porn or something.
I recall
and it was
something
super
like
controversial.
Yes.
A lot of those images, I don't want to say they look like this, but it was in this vein of like the grungy, deconstructed, everyone's laying around like they're on heroin and drugged out. Like that was a theme. That was like,
I agree.
And maybe that's the basis for what you would call the model mayhem look. But in many cases, the model mayhem look for me is a little more sexualized. The lighting isn't quite as particular. The models are never quite to a certain standard.
Yeah.
And when you add all of this together, it's kind of like the image that you took in the last shoot-off where you have the lingerie girl and in front of the cabinet. It looks like they're just in the home. It's, you know, you put all these like lower than excellent qualities into an image,
Yes.
and it starts to feel, and then you put the slider, the clarity slider up.
Yeah.
You start to do all these like little things, and all of a sudden you're like, that image looks really cheap. I don't think that this goes there yet, but I don't want to sit here and defend this image that I kind of put in here as a joke for fun.
You didn't put it in there as a joke.
I didn't
You
think-
like this image. I told you never let anyone see this image, and you put it in anyway,
It was the
thinking
image.
that
It was the one
good.
on your phone.
Here's the thing. You know, I think her like Farmer Joe stance, or like Morgan, Captain Morgan stance is maybe particularly cheap to me. Crop in for me, and let's go to like, yeah, that leg is super weird and uncomfortable. But like, I don't mind the lighting on her. I don't mind that little box halo behind her. I kind of like the shadow being cast on the right. But as you said, when you combine it all together and you got the knee up, it's not doing it. It's not doing it for me. Are you ready to move on?
Let's move on.
I guess what do you rate that one? I give it 2.
A 2?
Hell yeah. That's what the community rated it.
I know, they did. What was like, but all the images, even great images that we like, are 2s.
No.
There's a lot of 2s.
No.
What was...
No. No. The winning image was like 3.58.
That's what I'm saying is that's ridiculously low. I mean, I gave...
You gave it a 3!
I gave that image
You
a
are
3.
digging your own hole here.
No. Most of the top-rated images everyone knows are like half a star to a star lower by the community than probably what it really deserves. Like, that's just because our community are assholes. And so I feel like I want to give this a 3. Like, I would say like this could belong in my portfolio.
Please, God, no.
We need to do a critique the community
Moving
where
on.
we critique each other's current portfolio if you had to put one forward.
Okay.
I mean, I think I still have
I
like
don't. I don't really have any.
I think
new
I still have a
images,
website that's up, so that would be easy for me. But
but next up, this one's particularly interesting looking. It's funny when I see it on the screen in front of me here. It kind of looks like, some cheesy like Photoshop plugin. But then when I look at this on my computer screen, a little higher res, I mean, it very well might be that, but I
It looks
really
like acrylic
it.
paint or
yeah,
something
it looks
to
like a
me.
painting. This was taken by Kyle Foreman, and he says, I was experimenting with taking photos of waves crashing using slow shutter speeds. I took this handheld from the top of the pier. I was too lazy to put a neutral density filter on. I mean, this is crazy. Like, he doesn't mention doing anything weird in post at all. He just says the original image was a little overexposed, and he was able to recover everything in post.
what was the shutter speed?
He doesn't say, but that's pretty interesting.
This does not look like a traditional long shutter to me.
Well, it's the colors which make it appear so
The
fake.
colors, and then like it's got this motion blur that's like very horizontal, where with waves and water, you like And maybe it's the hard light from the sun casting like all of these highlights down here. You want to go full screen on this? These highlights and shadows, there's like really hard edges, which seem like those would be softened from a long exposure. I mean, long exposure being like a quarter of a second.
Right.
Something like that. But then you also have some pretty sharp.
Yeah, little drips. Yeah.
I don't know. It's very
weird.
strange. But I like it. It reminds me of an oil painting. Like my grandmother used to do stuff kind of like this, where, the thick paint would have this 3D effect.
Mm-hmm. Are you ready to rate it?
I'm ready.
3, 2, 1. I'm going 4 stars again on this one. We agree. I don't know. I would love to know what the heck is going on with the color and everything. It feels like you've done a lot of wackiness in post, but I like it anyway. I'd also be interested to see what this looks like in black and white. I feel like I got one of these frame TVs downstairs, and I keep thinking about doing a review of it. I'm not completely happy with it, but the basic premise of the television is that when you're not using it, which for me is like 99% of the time, it becomes a piece of art. Mm-hmm. And so I put a ton of different pieces of art on the TV, and I'm trying to figure out like what truly makes it look like art versus a TV that's, projecting art. And I think it looks best when you put black and white art on there. So I actually have a photo of waves, like a little bitty wave crashing.
The one that's in the front TV?
Yeah.
Yeah, that look cool.
That's black and white, and it's kind of similar to this.
What I don't understand is that TV is made by Samsung.
Yes.
And I just bought this crazy 82-inch TV. I was thinking about doing the projector thing, but then everyone's like, your blacks aren't going to be black, and you got to warm it up, and it's kind of a pain. I bought an 82-inch TV, and that Samsung has this called ambient mode, which I swear is exactly the same thing. And so I wonder if I could just take an image in Photoshop and maybe add the matte, because maybe that's like the distinguishing thing that's kind of different.
Yeah.
If you could just add the matte to an image and then put it on my TV and then put it into ambient mode, it gives this like appearance of, there's very low reflection, and it doesn't have like yours probably has a unique piece of glass on it, right?
I don't think it does. The one that comes out this year is going to have this weird matte texture to make it look more like a painting or something.
Is it just the brightness or the density or the HDR? There's something going on with the way.
They claim that this TV can do it. Like it can sit on a single image for hours or days and not burn in, whereas a normal TV would burn in. I don't know.
I thought the days of burning in things were gone.
No, it can definitely still happen. All right.
So we rated this? Okay, I give it a 4. Somebody's saying this is a pan, like you're panning the camera, but how would you get the sharpness in these waves? Like they don't have that panned motion. And the ridge line here looks very different. You know what I mean? Like,
I know. It doesn't seem like this was just a quick snapshot and then I darkened it in post. It doesn't feel like that at all to me.
It almost feels like you've taken like multiple exposures and selectively like blended them in with some kind of motion blur in Photoshop where it's like masking different things. But
well, Kyle, let us know in the comments how the heck you did this, because I think there's some funny business going on. Next up. Oh man, here comes the good stuff.
Just thinking outside the box here.
Yeah.
Is this a slot canyon?
Oh, there's a slot.
This is like Antelope Canyon. Oh, it's 2 people. Wow, look at that.
Wow, I didn't even know. I'm trying to decide if I like the piercings and stuff, or is that a problem? And then the girl who's on top looking down, what is on her forehead? You see this? Like right here?
Is it like
what
cosplay?
What is that?
She's like an Avenger?
Right. That's kind of what it feels like.
So, I don't dislike it, but I almost want the person on the bottom to have this similar weirdness of what's on the forehead and the piercings. Like if you had copied the top person, flipped it around, it'd be 2 identical, right? You want some variety. But if both people had the exact same sort of vibe, all of a sudden this might feel like a movie poster. It might feel like a documentary or something like, whoa, they're both a little,
cyborgs.
Yeah, but the person on the bottom, I mean, they do kind of have this like tattoo branding. I don't know really what's going on there, but It's kind of the what's the series with the girl with the dragon tattoo sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But the person on the bottom, it's just there's so much detail in a slightly different angle, and the black seem less dark. I don't know. You see what I'm saying? If you could have that similar top person on the bottom, suddenly now it might feel, I don't know if graphic's the right word, like graphic design.
Mm-hmm.
It's got something where they feel like both people belong in that image, where this one feels a little, she's very sensual and the girl on the top's a little rough around the edges.
Yeah, and there's also a sharpness thing going on where like obviously the camera was focused on the girl on top, and then the one on the bottom is a little softer. And at times I go back and forth between really liking that and then going like, I wish it was a little bit more perfect. But I'm not sure what the right answer is there. Are you ready to rate it?
I think so.
3, 2, 1. I'm going 4 again. I don't know. I like it a lot. I think it's cool. The reason maybe why I'd go 3 is just like the piercings and stuff, like you said, on just one of them just doesn't feel like it matches quite the same. But maybe that's the whole point. Maybe it's like a yin and yang type thing.
I mean, it definitely gives you the vibe of a relationship, you know, and there's a lot of, like, how big do you think the boudoir world is?
I don't, I've got a funny story with this. So I'm a member of this Charleston, I'm trying to remember, I think it's like Charleston Fashion Photography on Facebook or something. Okay. And it is the most horrific photography ever. Like, I don't think I've ever posted in there, but I just snoop.
Yeah.
And I just look at like the weird model mayhem stuff that comes out of there, and I'm like, oh my God, like, is this what's happening behind the scenes in Charleston? Well, somebody did this post, and I'm sure somebody's gonna look it up, I'm getting in trouble, but it was like, hey guys, if anybody's looking for a male model, give Tyler a call. We just did a boudoir session with him, and he was amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I gotta see this.
Yeah.
So I click on it, and dude, it is like the most stereotypical, like, dad bod, like, not a good-looking person at all.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at him like, oh, this is a joke.
Yeah.
Like, they're picking on all the other photos that have been.
It's like the guy who does all the Kim Kardashian Instagram posts, and he does them exactly the same.
Yeah. So I'm like, oh, this guy's being funny. Like, he took a picture of his friend or himself.
Yeah.
But then I keep going through this, and it's like the session keeps getting longer and longer and longer, and then I'm like, well, I gotta go to the photographer's page and like see if this is a real photographer or this is a joke. Like, no, this is a real photographer in town that shoots real boudoir and doudoir. So I'm like, I think this is serious.
Yeah.
I think this is for real. But, you know, I didn't want to write like, is this a joke? So once again, I just kept my mouth shut.
Well, now they all know that you think it's a joke.
Nobody watches this show.
My point in asking is boudoir a big genre is because, like, I've always thought, like, man, like, I think it's a little strange. I have my own personal opinions about it. Not because I'm a prude or anything, but just like, I always thought it's weird to have some dude photographer, typically, I know there's women photographers out there, but like have some guy shoot your wife or girlfriend half naked and then her give those pictures to you, and then for you to find like deep in your own fantasy world that is exactly what,
right.
And then to put it on a wall, like we saw a house here in Puerto Rico where the girl had all of these like boudoir pictures of herself in the room. It's just like, it's kind of strange.
Yeah.
To walk into someone's room and see that, like, I don't know, like it's, maybe I'm already saying too much. All that being said though, I think there is a real market for it. I think people are booking these sessions, and it's getting to where if you're getting married, there's an actual pretty common conversation that girls have that like, are you doing the boudoir session for your husband?
It feels way more
acceptable now.
No. If it's a female photographer, and maybe this is me being conservative and closed-minded or blah, 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 but like you said, if I am paying thousands of dollars for another man to photograph my soon-to-be wife naked,
yeah,
I feel like I'm losing right now. I feel like he should be paying me for this opportunity. So,
well, yeah. So I don't know, like, all that, bringing this back to this image, like, I think this is a really cool, artsy image that will get you clients, and these critiques are all supposed to be about, does it belong in your portfolio so that you can get work? I don't know if you're shooting the storm cloud image, where that world is, you know, in terms of fine art or people booking you to shoot landscapes. But this definitely is a genre where you can have this on your website and people are scrolling through and saying like, oh, I feel very self-conscious about my body, but I could do that.
Yes.
You know, and I would love to have an image like that.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're both girls, so you're appealing to, you know, a different market to where, you know, you're not just doing typical guy and girl stuff or just girls. A lot of times
What about Tyler and Dudoir?
Who's Tyler?
He was the guy in Charleston that if you're looking for a male model, he's available.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. To me, that seems like you're lowering your value putting that on there. You always still want good images, but
Yeah.
anyway, let's
up.
move on.
Now,
So I looked at this critique when it first launched, and I did see this image. I think I even left a message on this guy's picture. But I was so kind of, I don't know, part of me is like really excited to see this location that we went with Alaya that really hadn't been photographed much at all.
hey, real quick, I'm sorry. This last shot with the girls was taken by Christian Perotti, and he says this was a real boudoir couples session. So that's pretty cool. You know, like a lot of my critique was like, does it really match with the blah, 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 but like this is a real client. So.
Well, I want to know what she's wearing on her forehead.
That's true. Yeah, I don't know.
Out of curiosity, I'm not saying it's good or bad or like I don't have an opinion about it. I think it's kind of interesting. I think that's, the girl on top to me is the most interesting part of that image.
All right, next up. This one was taken by Sven, and he wrote nothing. I messed up. I should have not allowed this in the critique.
Oh, because he didn't write anything.
I know, I messed up. I mess up every freaking time somebody sneaks through. But is this where we've been with Alaya?
This is the exact spot.
Okay.
And we didn't get this weather. I think Alaya went back to this spot months later to take his own version that then he included in, I think, is this where art meets Photograph in the World 3?
Which can be found at fstoppers.com/store.
But what was exciting about this is I feel like nobody, I mean, I remember thinking like, I'm going to Google this location and find all the spots that we can shoot at. And there was no one that had taken this photo, except if you went in the coffee shop. There was one at Christmas time where they had the snow and everything.
Did we have snow in our shot?
No, because we weren't there in the winter.
For our shot, why do I not remember this little peninsula on the left side?
The church, that's like where we stayed. Our Airbnb was right down there.
I just don't remember that.
Well,
I don't even.
You're getting old and senile.
Maybe.
This is one of the coolest looking locations in the world. Like, it's hard for me to recommend going here because there kind of wasn't anything to do.
But in the summertime, I think stuff opened up.
We were there like in the off season, but they used to have a zip line it was the craziest zip line. It would connect this mountain to the one across the way. I heard they might have gotten rid of that.
What?
That's my biggest regret in life. I wanted to do that zip line so bad.
Well, you know what would be your second regret in life is not doing the one here in Puerto Rico, and we freaking live here.
We got to go do that. But anyway, it's kind of cool to see people going to a location that maybe we and Alaya helped inspire and bring on the map. But then I always think of the opposite side where like maybe these locals are like, damn those Instagrammers.
Yeah.
That guy brought all those people here.
I'm sure this was popular before Alaya decided to go.
It was, but you could go to Google and search up the name of Pietra Pertosa.
Is that what this is?
And nothing would come up. It would be like the one winter image that was like taken inside the coffee shop.
All right, maybe Alaya and Fstoppers put it on the map. All right, let's move on.
Do we rate this?
All right, let's
you
go.
want to not rate it?
3, 2, 1, we'll rate it. I give it 3 stars.
3? I give it 4.
Yeah.
Just because the location's so crazy.
Maybe I'm being a little bit of a Debbie Downer. It feels like the sky could be better, and I know this is not really a fair critique because you probably did a
sky replacement.
No, it's probably a natural sky, you know, so like that's what it looked like, and you want to be a legit photographer.
Okay.
But you know, I just feel like my standards are so freaking high now with sky replacements that I'm like, no, put a better sky in.
I just wonder if the horizon's too much in the center. Like, I don't know if you can.
Yeah, the crop's a little weird too.
Like maybe the right side of that tree is always. It's like a bummer that you can't get. Like you're right on someone's roof line doing this, but you know, if you go too far over, you cut off the mountain. But I don't know. Like, that scene is so crazy.
Yeah, I like that a little
I'd love
better.
to have seen this in the winter.
I am not going back there, especially in the winter. Wasn't it cold when we were there? It's like freezing cold, right?
It was rainy. It was just rainy and cold, and you were putting tape on your sensor to pull off dust.
And did it work? It worked.
It worked.
All right, we ready for the next shot here?
It's like Westworld.
This image was taken by Janos or Hanos Lakatos. Portrait of my friend shot in the living room. One flash with the green gel was fired towards the ceiling to cover the background white wall and her shadow side with color. Key light was a 120 centimeter softbox with a grid. Her figure gave me the idea to turn her into an android, kind of dull in post. Added a facelift to see the inside of her head, separated by arms, blah, 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 blah. It's pretty cool.
Do you think you could do this? Like, cut out the face and pull it off and then throw in some robotic stuff?
You know, at times I'm like, there's no way in hell I could do that. But then I'm like, no, that's easy. All you got to do is, like, you know, a little pin tool, slide it over, and then you got to do something to the edge to like, you know, add a little shadow to the edge so that it looks like it's, you know, got some depth to it.
It makes me want to, like, have a competition where we have to do something like this. There's like a photographer who he like hires people on like Fiverr. Is Fiverr the website? Where you hire
everybody on YouTube hires people on Fiverr.
But it's like let's throw a concept out to like 10 people.
Yeah.
And let's have the cheap guy and the expensive guy.
Yeah, everyone does that on YouTube.
Okay, well, I thought there was like one guy.
No.
But this seems like kind of that thing, like who can do this best, and I feel like our versions would be very...
You know, that's something that we've never done before, is a Photoshop competition. We always do these photo competitions, and those are...
Do you want to be involved in a Photoshop competition, Mr. Color Grade?
My problem is the color grading, but if we had to do something like this, I feel like it could be fun to see people, and especially like if it were you and me, or you or me, versus somebody who's really good at Photoshop. You know, if we got like Aaron Nace from Flern or something. And
I wouldn't want to go up against him.
Well, I mean, it'd be like a guaranteed loss, but I think it could be funny to kind of see the different ways to go about doing things. Every time I watch one of those Flern videos, I'm like, all right, I think I know how I would do it. And then he's like, all you got to do is create an adjustment layer here. And I'm like, oh, I would have never thought to do that. And oh my gosh, that's so much easier. And the results are insane, you know?
Yeah.
So maybe that's an idea.
Okay, you ready to rate this?
You know what I just noticed that I don't like is the on button and the turn me on. That looks really bad to me.
Yeah.
That doesn't look like high res or realistic at all.
Like Steve Jobs or Elon Musk would never put the power button there.
And then
like the USB on the neck is kind of like a strange location. I mean, I know that's trying to sell the illusion of like what this is. But from a design standpoint, I don't know that that's where I would put it.
And then the other copies of her in the background are kind of cheesy, right?
I like the arm. That does have like a real indention vibe
I thought
to it.
that was like a strap from a dress.
No, like that's supposed to be like her arms could move. Like the
Okay,
one
that's
over
cool.
here looks a little less convincing, but the one on her left arm, closest to the camera, I do like.
Ah, man. This was like a 3 or 4 for me, but now that I see the on button and the turn me on, I'm like, it looks
That could be
kinda
photoshopped
cheesy.
out so easily. Just get rid of it.
All right, ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. I'm going 3 stars.
3.
Community also agrees 3.09. Next.
What I think
image.
would be interesting to do here is to, and it's take a lot more work, but would be to photograph her with slightly different expressions or like makeup or something. Get her to mess with her jaw a little, make her face distorted a little bit more naturally, and like composite her in so that when you look at the ones in the background, you feel like, man, they're all similar, but they're just a little different.
Right.
Copying this and then pasting it a bunch of times, it just feels too much the same.
I agree. But I think the other problem is like the fake blur and stuff on them in the back. It just doesn't look real. It looks like you added Gaussian blur to it. All right. Now, I assume this is very fake, but the community dug it. This was taken by Oh, this was taken by Miguel as well, who took the very first shot. And he says this one is also a composite. Are you ready?
I am.
3, 2, 1. Really?
So when I look up at the screen and see it from far away, I see this magical image that's very backlit and it's kind of cool, right? But when I look at it on this monitor, it's like there's not a lot of clarity and depth, and stuff looks kind of washed out, and maybe the double rainbow thing's a little too cheesy.
What does it mean?
What does it mean? I don't know, like.
How'd that song go? Double rainbow, cross the sky. Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if I know the song. This was made from the popular video.
Yeah, remember that YouTube channel that would make the videos from the viral?
Auto-tune?
Yeah, auto-tune the news. Those were the good old days.
They're coming for you, they're gonna find you. That was the first song I ever bought on iTunes.
They're coming in your window.
I think that's the only song I've ever bought.
Trying to rape them. Yeah, that was a good
I've
one.
never bought a song on Apple Music.
I wonder how much money they made.
Except that song. He was like at the Grammys.
I think didn't I see him like interviewed recently, and he's like no longer gay or something?
So, like regrets in life, right? I had this idea of making a documentary called like Internet Famous.
Yeah.
And it was back when all of that first started happening. And it probably, I don't know if anyone's made that documentary, surely it's happened, but the idea would be to like interview people and to see what it was like going through that. Mm-hmm. And my thought was I could fly to all these people, but that'd be expensive. But what if I just bought plane tickets and flew them all to Charleston and interviewed them in our studio? And then I was like, but more than even making the documentary, what if I could show up to the bar with an entourage of all the most famous people? So it was the, what was the girl with the horrible, it's Friday. You remember that song? Rebecca Black. And it would be the intruder dude. And it would be the guy who was like, had the neighbor who had the girl that was
Did give away.
And then what was the black girl who had she had a saying too, where she was like, fire up in here or something like that, or it's something on fire.
I can't. Yeah, I know. I can see her face.
And so like I would just thought like these people, if you bought them a flight to Charleston, everyone would take you up on that, and you get to hear their story.
Would they though?
I think they would.
It depends on. So you remember Cash Me Outside?
Yeah.
Do you like? She's been posting on OnlyFans.
How do you know this?
It's been all over the news.
All over the news.
Do you know how much money she said she has made posting on OnlyFans?
Is she posting like nudes and stuff? Like what does she post
maybe, I don't know. It's certainly like suggestive stuff.
Okay, like millions of dollars?
I'm going to look it up real quick.
If there was a way to invest in OnlyFans, like it's such a perverted, like it goes against everything that I believe as a human. But my gosh, like what a brilliant idea. Let's like, because this is all, I think this.
Okay, she's made $52 million on OnlyFans.
Her claims are like, that's like probably
That's
legit.
what she said.
And she's just posting slightly.
Her name is Bad Baby. I prefer Cash Me Outside, but.
Somebody tell me what the girl, I'm trying to think of the other woman that had the like saying. I used to say it all the time, and now it's like gone, like I have dementia now. It was a black girl, and she was like.
There was like a fire.
Yeah, and they were like.
Ain't nobody got time for that?
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Yeah, I still say that.
And I was just thinking like, man, if you could get all those people in one place and then go like, that would have been the craziest.
But like, if Cash Me Outside is making $52 million, like she's not showing up.
This is pre-OnlyFans. This was like 10 years ago when.
But I'm saying like even Cash Me Outside, like maybe she's like, man, you got to pay me more than just a plane ticket.
What is the bed intruder guy doing now? Like he probably has nobody knocking on his door, right?
Maybe now, but in his.
But this is why I would want to interview him now, maybe then 5 to 10 years ago, is like, could you imagine that wave of like nobody knowing who you are to all of a sudden you becoming the largest meme of that year, and getting to the Grammys and getting to sing your song and probably making some amount of money on Apple iTunes, and then all of a sudden like it all washing away and going away, like Rebecca Black. Could you imagine to where like she was one of the most watched videos of all time? And then now she's probably like graduating college, trying to find a job, and everyone knows her for this stupid video. You just sent me one a year or two ago of like the girl in the red dress who's like at the church.
Oh, yeah.
That one's really bad. I don't know. I find this like internet celebrityism where you get to that level. I mean, obviously, like we have followers and we go places and people times people stop us. This is a whole different thing. And everyone's like, catch me outside, cash me outside.
Cash me outside.
Ain't nobody got time for that. Like it's a worldwide phenomenon. Like I can't imagine what that does psychologically, because unlike a musician or an actor or somebody famous who they got there for performing or building something that had some value, you've gotten there by some weird turn of events that has no value, typically.
In many cases, you're like really dumb.
It's like a joke. And then it's probably really exciting for a short period of time, and then it's like jumping off a cliff where you're like, that will never happen to me again. And if you didn't monetize it, I mean, I'm glad to see this girl's making $52 million, but that still seems so crazy. Anyway, I don't know how we got there from this image, but
Let's move on. Interesting. This one appears to be fake, but maybe it's real. Ah, another one snuck by me. I swear I'm going to look more closely next time. This guy didn't write anything about this image.
Lee, what are you doing here?
I'm a horrible live critique host. All right, are you ready to rate it?
I'm ready.
3, 2, 1.
We're flipping.
I'm in between.
I like this a lot. This is
a lot of times we do critiques and we're like
even
exactly the same on every image. I feel like we've been off by a point on every one.
No, this is one of my more favorite images from this critique. This is really cool. It feels authentic. The light direction feels accurate, even if this was a sky replace. Like,
I really like that the shadow that's being cast behind him.
Yeah, and then there's like this interesting like layering that's going on here in the foreground. It's like smoky.
It feels like
a
painting again.
Yeah, but not quite like the water one.
No, not that.
But this is just pretty cool.
All right, well, let's move on. Don't give him too much credit. He didn't follow the rules.
So this location, I swear I've seen images or videos. Is there like one lighthouse in the world where these massive waves just constantly bombard this thing?
And I don't understand how these things can remain standing, you know?
You would think that rail system or like the whole top would be gone.
Yeah.
That little wind vane surely would not be there over time. But maybe it's some weird optical illusion where it's like breaking just far enough to where you get the spray, but it's not bearing the impact of...
But there's another, I mean, maybe there's multiple, but there is one lighthouse that I always see photos of where the waves are actually hitting the lighthouse.
Yeah.
And it's still
It's got to be this one, but...
And are lighthouses even like...
necessary?
Legitimately used anymore? I know they are still used, but are they... Is it like a historical thing, or are people like, oh,
are they
don't
building
run aground over there?
They're like building new lighthouses?
Right, I can't imagine.
It's like a tourist thing, like come to the lighthouse point. I like a good lighthouse. You ready to rate this?
Pedro Pulido took this, and he said it was taken in Porto, Portugal. Yeah, let's rate it.
All right.
3, 2, 1. I went 4 on this one. I don't know. We're going back and forth here. I feel like it's nice. It's timeless. I feel like
this horizon line or cloud, whatever that is like really throwing me off.
I did not notice that until you said it.
It's like
that is so weird. That is really weird. That you know what that is?
What?
It's a chemtrail. Yeah.
Oh, we both. I just before I moved back to Puerto Rico, I went to Jamaica for a week, and there's this mountain that you get to where Kristen's parents were from, Treasure Beach, and you're like, it kind of, does it happen here? I know I've seen it before, where you're driving somewhere and you get so high and you can see the horizon of the ocean, but it blends perfectly into the sky to where it's this really, something feels off. It's like you're driving down, but you feel like you're not driving down to the ocean. It's like it feels like you're way above the cloud line or something. It's really disorienting.
Because the ocean was reflecting the sky perfectly.
Yeah, it's like blending perfect, and you can't really see the line. And you know you're high and you're going down, but you start to feel like not having that horizon line. I wonder if that's the horizon line or that's some cloud and the horizon line's really much lower. You know what I mean? Because he's standing flat with the boardwalk. So would the horizon line be that high, or is he shooting down on this lighthouse? Do you understand what I'm trying to point out?
Are you talking about the sky again? I mean, that has to be clouds.
Right.
Yeah.
It has to be. But in this particular image, it makes me kind of think that it's a horizon line because it's so sharp. But then because it's off a little bit.
Yeah, it's weird.
It just throws me off a little bit. What do you think of like the lack of light direction, and it's overcast, and it's very monotone and
the detail and the shadows that are in the wave and stuff are so freaking cool, man. I just feel like And then I wouldn't think that I would want the subject to be so dark, but it totally works for me in this image. And you have that super hard contrast on the top of the lighthouse versus that bright sky. I think it looks great.
Somebody is naming the famous version of this. Are we able to look that up and show it? It's La Jument, L-A, and then J-U-M-E-N-T.
I can't. No, I can't. I don't really have a way to.
Okay.
Maybe what I need to do in the future is I could plug this laptop in to that, or get a second Apple TV and beam it over.
Okay.
Maybe that's what I need to do.
All right, let's move on.
This image was taken by
Hannibal Lecter.
Dusty Cooper. I've always been fascinated by cicadas, so this year I started collecting specimens from around the world. This is a species from Thailand. Interesting. I used panoramic stitching and focus stacking to achieve this look of this image. I wanted this series to be based on specimen documentation, but I wanted them to also feel beautiful and otherworldly. It certainly does. Gosh, I hate cicadas so much, man. That's so disgusting to me.
What I don't understand about these insects is they always say it's like 7 years between their mating cycle.
Yeah.
But is that like a specific lineage or family? Because I feel like I hear them every year. So is it like they're rotating every 7 years, but at any given time they're still chirping? Or does it mean that they should only be heard for 1 year and then you have 6 years of silence?
I thought that's what it was.
That would make sense, but I hear them all the time.
Do you see them all the time?
No, but if you're in Charleston and you go out at night, I feel like there's that.
Those could be crickets.
Really?
I don't know. I mean,
I'm not that old to where I should have only heard this a handful of times in my life. I feel like that is the sound I hear in the South when I think of nighttime. The majority of the time I hear these things.
All right.
So I don't know if it's like, could you go to a different town and it's like a different population and they're on a different cycle?
I didn't think that's the way it worked, but I don't know anything about
now.
bugs. I just hate these things. Did we rate this?
We haven't rated this.
3, 2, 1.
Between a 4, I don't know if I can give this a 5, but this is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And a lot of it just has to do with the coloring and the symmetry of the insect itself. Obviously, the behind-the-scenes photography, it sounds like this required a lot to get this image.
I do wonder how, if you're buying, I assume, dead bugs from Thailand, how are you getting the wings to spread out like that? And I don't know, it would be interesting. Like, we have a tutorial in our store of a bug photographer.
Yeah.
What do we call it? The name of the tutorial?
I don't know the name of it. It's like macro photography with Andres.
Something like that. Andres Moulin, he's an amazing insect photographer, but I'm trying to remember. We didn't film that one. But did he do any with dead bugs and like the wing, or were they all alive?
His whole thing was about not killing the bugs. Like he said that so many times.
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking like, what if you found a dead bug? Like, The other day we filmed a video and you came outside my house and there was this massive crab outside my house, and this thing was ferocious. It was like snapping and like, I was like, I've never seen a crab in a neighborhood. I mean, it was the size of this iPad, maybe bigger.
It was huge.
It was huge. And part of me was thinking like, man, there's some way to capture him and do a photograph. And then ironically, the next day, probably you just noticed it, but Katie was like, there's a dead crab, or she thought it was alive, in one of your storage rooms downstairs.
Yeah.
And it was the same type of crab.
Yeah.
And so
it looked, for anybody who's interested, it looked like a stone crab, but we are very far away from the ocean, so I guess this was a land crab, but I've never seen a crab like this that lives on land, and we found 2 of them one day apart. It's weird.
But I thought, like, is there something you could do photographically with the crab, or sometimes you find a dead insect here that's crazy looking, and you're like, man, that'd be crazy to photograph, but do you think this guy's like buying these and there's a trade?
I don't know. Did he fly to Thailand to take this picture? I don't know.
I kind of mentioned it. It reminds me of the Silence of the Lambs, sort of. It doesn't have that movie poster, broken up, overly saturated, contrasty vibe. This is very detailed, but it's very cool.
Well, I think that wraps up this
That's
critique.
The winner?
Yeah, so this is the winner, Dusty, and let me see who's the number 1 guy. Miguel. Send me a private message on fstoppers.com. Let me know which tutorial you would like from fstoppers.com/store. And then if you guys would like to be a part of the next critique, we're doing animals. Head over to fstoppers.com/contests. Anything else you have to say, Patrick?
Somebody's saying coconut crab. Is that a real thing?
Yeah, that's a real thing.
Do you know what those look like?
I can look it up real quick. Let's see. Coconut crab. No, this is not. But yeah, these are freaking huge. I mean, that's like the size of a human.
What is like is it a blue crab? What are the crabs that are in the?
Blue crab are the little bitty ones, that are like super thin, and you can,
I'm
barely.
thinking of Dungeness then, like the crab but this thing had like a huge pincher, and
yeah.
He was. I've never seen a crab just like so vicious. Like
moving he was going at us,
snapping and like mad at me. And
I walked outside your door and he was right there, and he was like, "Ha!" Right when I walked out, it was so scary. Oh my gosh! I had flip flops on, so yeah. I'm glad that's over. All right, you ready to call this?
Let's get out of here.
I'm ready to go to jiu-jitsu. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.